I did not enjoy this arc. It just feels like way too much happened in such a short amount of time. Lots of antagonists existed, lots of pressures were put on the main characters because so much was going on. It felt like we could not genuinely engage with one story, and because we couldn't engage with one story, at no point did I feel like the stakes were real. This arc started with Zoro reflecting on his childhood, so in our heads we've been told, okay, this arc is kind of about Zoro, right? Cool. And then he meets his childhood friend and we're like, okay, where's this going? Clearly this is about Zoro. Then the story diverts to the restaurant and we're led to believe that, okay, this is an arc about recruiting Sanji. Okay, cool. This is in line with the previous arcs where Luffy has gone somewhere and has recruited people. Okay, cool. Makes sense. But while all of that is happening, we're introduced to Jing. But when he's explaining how he got to this restaurant in the first place and is really hungry, he then mentions that his pirate ship was attacked by possibly someone with the devil fruit, etc, etc. So that is also being set up. Later on, we find out he was attacked by Mihawk. And then we are introduced to Don Krieg. And then when they're fighting, this character called Pearl pops out of nowhere. And then as they're fighting, we get a flashback from Sanji about his own childhood, etc. And to top it off, Nami's ran off with the flippin' Going Merry. So what is this arc about? Can someone please tell me? Because I don't know. I wanted to see an arc about how and why Sanji gets recruited. Instead, just a load of stuff was just thrown at us for no payoff. Maybe there'll be payoffs in the future for no payoff, and some of it just felt like stalling. So I couldn't enjoy it. I feel like Mihawk's introduction to the story was not done in a great way. Clearly, Mihawk is a great character. He can fight and he is going to be Zoro's goal. Great. I love that Zoro's got a big goal, big shonen goal he has to go out for. But why are we inserting Zoro story into Sanji's arc? I understand Nami running off at the beginning of the arc and then some reference to her at the end where she mentions another character, and we know that in the next arc is going to be a little bit Nami focused. I understand that. Nami was referenced at the beginning of the arc and at the end of the arc, but she didn't interrupt the main story. Whereas Zoro, he opened the arc by having the flashback of Kuina, and then about 2/3 in, he's now fighting Mihawk, and then he just disappears. So was this arc about Zoro? Was it about Sanji? Or was it about flipping Jing and Redford Zeph? So much happened, and because so much happened, I feel like it did a massive discredit to Mihawk's story, and I feel like I could not enjoy this arc as much as I wanted to. The only saving grace, the biggest saving grace, is that when we actually saw Redford Zeph's flashback and we learnt about Sanji, that was a great backstory. That is definitively the best part of this arc. Probably my favorite episode, but the rest of the arc just felt massively disjointed, and because it was so disjointed, when Luffy was fighting Don Krieg, I was just like, ugh, this is taking forever. And I don't even understand, why did Luffy end up being the hero of the arc when we thought the arc was about recruiting Sanji and Zoro finding Captain Mihawk early on? It didn't make sense to me. It really did not. And to make it worse, Luffy lost that fight. Luffy ended up drowning, and he had to be saved by Sanji. And then after he was saved by Sanji, we found that Don Krieg was perfectly fine and he could keep on going. And Jing was flip-flopping. One moment is a good guy, one moment is a bad guy. Make your mind up. I could not enjoy this arc. I really wanted to, but I couldn't. The way it ended as well felt very flat. I didn't finish this arc and I was like, oh my goodness, I wonder what happens next. But that could have happened had more time been spent on teasing the Old Blue and Sanji wanting to find a place where all of the seas meet, and maybe alluding that maybe that's where the One Piece is, etc. Maybe speaking a little bit more about the Grand Line. But it didn't feel like that much story was given to that element. So I'm sorry. This arc, I don't want to give it a 3 out of 10 because that's ridiculous, that's ridiculous, especially when they gave us Sanji's awesome backstory, but I'm gonna give it a flippin' 3.2. It wasn't a poor arc, it just wasn't a great arc, and it left me massively frustrated because, for the reasons I've already mentioned, you can't give me 7 different stakes in 13, maybe it's not, episode 19 to 30, however, 11 to 13 episodes. 7 stakes, it doesn't even make sense. I'm done.